Welcome back to the Planet Munch Nutrition and Behaviour Change programme. This week we're going to look at food labels and try to understand them better. Food labels provide us with nutrition information which can help you keep a check on the amount of foods you're eating, to know what they contain, to help you understand if they're high in energy, fat, salt and added sugars, and whether they're a good choice. Most pre-packed foods have a nutrition label on the back or on the side of the packaging. Where a nutrition or a health claim make reference to a specific ingredient or nutrient in the product, such as calcium, vitamin D or iron, that nutrient must then be displayed in the mandatory nutritional information about the product, usually displayed as a table on the back or on the side of the packaging. A healthy balanced diet includes some foods that are high in fat, salt, sugar or a combination, but it is best to have these foods less often and in small amounts. Dietary surveys show that most adults and an increasing proportion of children in the UK take in too much energy or calories that they need to go about their daily activities and stay healthy. UK diets are high in fat, especially saturated fat, the type that's not good for the heart and blood vessels, high in sugar and salt, and not enough fruit and vegetables, oily fish or fibre. Food labels can be confusing, therefore, by UK law, the following must be provided for all pre-packaged foods: the name of the food, a best before date or use by date or instructions where to find it, any necessary warnings such as allergens or that it contains a source of phenylalanine, net quantity information for products over 5 grams, a list of ingredients if there is more than one, the name and address of the manufacturer, packer or seller, the country of origin if required, a lot number or use by date, any special storage conditions and instructions for use or cooking if necessary. In 2016, it became mandatory to provide nutrition information on the back of pre-packaged foods and provide guidance in the form of reference intakes, also known as RIs. This system replaced the former Guideline Daily Amounts or GDA system. The law was introduced in 2014, but companies were given a honeymoon period to allow time to change the packaging. Under this law, labels must now include information on energy in kilojoules and kilocalories, usually referred to as calories, as well as fat, saturates or saturated fat, carbohydrates, sugars, protein and salt. All nutrition information is provided per 100 grams and sometimes per portion of the food. There are currently no reference intakes set for children. Front or pack labelling is voluntary and is sometimes called at-a-glance labelling. This is very useful when you want to compare different products at a glance. Some packs will give you guidance on the amount of energy or a given nutrient in 100 grams of the product, and some products will also give the amount in the recommended portion, and some will give you both. This can be very helpful when menu planning and especially when deciding on amounts of food to give to children. Portion guidance is lacking for children for many foods. Reference intakes provide guidance on how a particular food or drink fits into your daily recommended diet. RIs show you the energy or calories, sugar, fat, saturates and salt found in food. They also show a percentage which tells you how much of your daily reference intakes each portion of that food contains. For example, the label above, taken from a box of apple pies, shows that each apple pie will provide 16.4 grams of sugar, which is 18% of your daily reference intake for total sugar. The red colour in the traffic light system shows you that the pies are high in sugar. Each pie also contains 2.3 grams of saturated fat, which is 12% of your reference intake for saturated fat. The amber colour tells you that the pies contain a medium amount of saturated fat. Green means a food is low in a particular nutrient. These pies, for example, are low in salt. Some parts of food and drink labelling are voluntary, including the colour coding system. The colour coding or traffic light system provides an indication whether there are high, medium or low amount of nutrient per 100 grams or per 100 mils. Red means that the food contains a high amount, amber a medium amount, and green if the food contains a low amount per 100 grams or per 100 mils. The amount of each nutrient and the colour this equates are given below. And note that energy or calories is not given a colour coding. There are several different layouts for traffic light system labelling, but essentially they all have the same message. Colour-coded nutritional information tells us at a glance whether the food was high, medium or low for fats, saturated fat, sugars and salt. A mainly green label means that the food is a healthier choice, and amber means that the food is neither high nor low, so you can eat foods which are all or mostly amber on the label most of the time. On the back or the side of the packaging, you will find some information such as ingredients and further nutrition information. Ingredients must be listed in weight descending order. Ingredients that may cause allergic reactions are known as allergenic ingredients, must be declared, and a clear reference to the allergen made, often written in bold to alert anyone who may have a food allergy to that particular allergen. The most common food allergens include milk, egg, wheat, peanuts, tree nuts, soya, sesame, fish, shellfish, lupin, celery, mustard, sulfur dioxide and sulfates. Therefore, examples of ingredients that need to be clearly referenced to the allergen, for example, foods such as tofu, where soya is the allergen, and tahini paste, where sesame is. An appropriate warning must be included on the label if the food contains certain ingredients such as a source of phenylalanine, an ingredient that some people must avoid for health reasons. You will see reference intakes referred to on food labels, and they show you the maximum amount of calories and nutrients you should eat in a day. The reference intakes for adults currently are total fat, less than 70 grams per day, saturates, less than 20 grams per day, carbohydrates, at least 260 grams per day, total sugars, 90 grams per day, protein, 50 grams per day, and salt, less than 6 grams per day. The reference intakes for sugar is for total sugar and includes sugars from milk and whole fruits, as well as added free sugars. This is different to guidance on free sugars. Think back to last week where we talked about free sugars. They should provide only 5% of energy in our diet for adults and children. It is important to read the label and think about the food or drink being consumed to decide if the sugar on the label is free sugar added to the food, or is it a natural occurring sugar present in food, for example, milk. Currently, there are no recommended intakes to guide weight loss, and there are no recommended intakes for children under 4. It is important to look at labels and try to spot warning signs. For example, if a product says 85% fat-free, that means that the product has 15% of fat. Does that label refer to the grams of fat or percentage of energy from fat? Things to also look out for is, what does 95% fat-free mean? You have to be careful because 95% fat-free means that up to 5% of the product may be fat by weight. Fat has doubled the calories of carbohydrates and protein, and the percentage energy coming from fat may still be too high. So in this example, 5 grams of fat will provide 303 calories, but the whole product will provide 808 calories. This means that 50% of the energy is from fat. So essentially, the claim on the label is misleading. So is nutritional labelling compulsory, and what do they have to tell us? Nutritional labelling regulations were introduced to Britain in the 1990s. They only apply to packaged foods. When a claim is made, such as low in fat or high in fibre, the label must provide information to support this. For example, a food must have more than 6 grams per 100 gram of fibre in order to claim it is high in fibre, such as this product, which contains 6.4 grams of fibre per 100 grams. Therefore, the health claim has been supported by the evidence. Also, for example, it can be said that the inclusion of oats in a healthy balanced diet, which is low in saturated fat, may lower cholesterol. But it cannot be said that oats lower cholesterol, as there is no direct evidence for this. Food labels provide a wide range of information about foods, but understanding all the information is important if we are to make use of it. For example, if a product is labelled light or has no added sugar, what does this mean? There are rules that food manufacturers must follow to prevent false claims or misleading descriptions, and there are clear guidelines on what labels on packets can and can't show. Light or low fat. The label must explain exactly what has been reduced and by how much. For example, to claim a food is light, it must contain 30% less fat than the standard product. To get the whole picture about the product and compare it properly with similar foods, you will need to take a closer look at the nutritional label. The easiest way to compare products is to look at the information per 100 grams. A light or light version of one brand of crisp may contain the same amount of fat or calories as the standard version of another brand. A claim that a food is low in fat can only be made where the product contains no more than 3 grams of fat per 100 grams for solids and 1 gram of fat per 100 mils for liquids, with the exception for milk where 1.8 grams of fat per 100 mils for semi-skim milk. Some products that claim to be light on fat can have more calories than you think, so always check the label. Foods claiming to have reduced calories must have at least 25% fewer calories than standard products. Low calorie means that no more than 40 calories per 100 grams or 100 mils is in the product. Low total fat means that there should be no more than 3 grams of fat per 100 grams. And 90% fat-free means that there should be no more than 10 grams of fat per 100 grams. No added sugar. No added sugar usually means that food has not had any sugar added to its ingredients. However, a food that has no added sugar might still taste sweet and can still contain sugar. The sugar can come from a natural source, such as fruit and milk, but these foods can be included as part of a healthy, balanced diet because the sugar is part of the natural structure of the food and is released and used by the body more slowly than added free sugar. It is the food containing added sugars and free sugars that we should be cutting down on. Just because a food contains no added sugar does not necessarily mean it has a low sugar content, as the food may contain ingredients that naturally have a high sugar content, such as fruit, or have added milk, which contains lactose, a type of sugar that occurs naturally in milk. Low sugar means that the product should have no more than 5 grams of sugar per 100 grams of solids or 2.5 grams of sugar per 100 mils for liquids. Sugar-free means that the product should have no more than 0.5 grams of sugar per 100 grams or 100 mils. Unsweetened. This usually means that no sugar or sweetener has been added to the food to make it taste sweet. This doesn't necessarily mean that the food will not contain naturally occurring sugars found in fruit or milk. Nutritional claims. There are some exceptions, for example, descriptions of taste, such as buttery taste, where information is required by law, such as for low-fat spreads. However, there are currently no guidelines around food that are marketed to be baked or popped, and they are not necessarily a healthier option compared to other brands for certain nutrients. And manufacturers are currently required by law to give this information if a product also makes a nutritional claim, such as low fat, or a health claim, such as calcium helps build strong bones, or if vitamins or minerals have been added to the product. Labels can be used at this point to see if we have any relevant claims we can investigate. For example, if lower in fat, what percentage of energy does it contribute to the food itself? A reduced fat food can still be high in calories and percentage fat. Manufacturers are currently required by law to give this information if the product also makes a nutritional claim, such as low sugar, sugar-free, or no added sugars. If the food contains natural sugars, then this should be stated on the label. Example, contains naturally occurring sugars or natural sugars. But what about foods that claim to be a good source of nutrients? There are rules that must be followed here as well. A food that purports to be a good source, for example vitamins, must contain about 1/5 of the reference intake. A food that claims it is a rich source, or rich in, or enriched with, must contain at least half the reference intake, and to be increased in something the product must have 1/4 more than its standard equivalent. An increased fibre must have at least 25% more fibre than its standard product. For a food to claim it is high in protein, at least 20% of the energy value of the food must be provided by protein. So it's a minefield. Understanding labels can be tricky. The best way to get used to reading food labels and understanding what they mean is by practice and familiarization. Practice won't make you perfect, but it will help you choose healthier options and understand how almost all foods have a place in a healthy diet. Even some foods that are high in fat and sugar can be included on some occasions or in small amounts, such as butter or spread on bread or added to foods, or sparingly using sugar in baking. So in brief, food labels are designed to be clear, but they can still be confusing. Take your time and read the finer print, and read in between the lines for hidden sugars. And remember, portion sizes are often calculated for adults and not for children. Behaviour change, a recap. How have you been getting on with your weekly SMART goals? Remember, we have discussed that successful goals are those that are SMART, specific and small, measurable, achievable, relevant and time-related. Now let's take a few minutes to consider the past changes to family eating we have talked about in the last few weeks. We have looked at decreasing sugary foods, decreasing higher energy snacks, and swapping them out for fruit and vegetables. And we've also thought about how you as a parent or caregiver could be a role model to your child on helping them make positive lifestyle changes. If you have been sticking to your SMART goals and making changes, then well done. Give yourself a pat on the back and consider what you want to take forward as a change this week. It could be something you've already changed or a completely new goal. If you have not managed to set a SMART goal, don't worry. Take this time today to start the process and make a goal for next week. Think about the topics we've just recapped. Well done for completing week 8.